still haven't fixed that ending.
It's okay.
That was pretty abrupt. It was pretty abrupt.
It catches us off guard every time.
When I made it, it was pretty epic, and I was like, "This is great." And as a standalone video, I thought it worked great. But then when we started playing it on here, I was like, "Yeah."
Hey, kiddo, first time commenter.
Hey, Alex. Fun fact for the two who are on tonight with us: Alex is Sandy's son, her firstborn.
That's my sonner.
How are you doing, Alex?
Hey, Joanne. Thanks for being in here.
So everyone will immediately notice that we have some fresh faces on the show tonight, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so I'm going to open up with a very controversial question. And it's one that our audience just loves us for. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you Team Amber or are you Team Depp?
Team Justice. We are Team Justice.
Yes.
I don't know why she's saying that right now.
Just having Dr. Pineapple in the room, pineapples makes me just feel a little bit better.
I like that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I thought this obsession would be over by now. But
we got a couple more weeks.
Still is going.
So they're not having any trial this week, but I sure am following up on all the behavioral analysts, discussion panels, doctors and lawyers on their opinions on everything. So,
me too. I've been sharing
that one clip where it looked like Amber might have been sneaking a little something into the courtroom.
I think everybody saw it.
I think she's the next David Blaine. Okay, when she did that class, I was like, wow, how did she do that? How did she blow her nose like that?
Hey, listen, talented. Using it for everything but tears. Okay.
So she may or may not be an actress in the future, but I think she'd have a job in being like, what's the official term for a smuggler, but legal smuggler? A transporter.
A pharmacist? No. Not that one.
All right, so maybe what we can do is... Mother's Day was yesterday. How was everyone's Mother's Day?
Oh, look. Joe has a comment real quick. She also did a bump of the white stuff, too. Crazy stuff. 2 bumps, too.
Isn't that what we were talking about?
I wanted to get it out before we continued on.
Oh.
Dr. Pineapples, how was your Mother's Day?
My Mother's Day was nice. I got some gifts from my kiddos and a gift from my niece, and my hubby cooked me dinner. I got to choose what I wanted to eat. So it was lovely. And we went to church in the morning, which was very nice.
That's awesome. Mamas always love when their kiddos make it to church.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Sandy?
So mine was good. We went for a walk in the morning just because we had our church service was going to be later on in the afternoon. And so I got to see both my kiddos, and my kiddo was at church. Both of my kiddos were at church as well. And I got a new lens, which I'm excited to use.
I saw that.
Because Dr. Pineapples, I'm dabbling in photography, landscape photography.
Oh, nice.
Not really people like Joe Baker.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about it.
Can you say his name using the Spanish alphabet?
Oh, yes. Ho Baker.
Yes. So you don't do people like Ho Baker does.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. People are just not my thing.
I get it.
I feel you. Same here. I don't like that either.
CPJ. Jimmy,
Professor.
how was...
It was pretty busy. My son graduated from college. Woohoo!
Whoa!
Oh, congratulations. That's right.
On Saturday. And then, so I got to see his mom, my mom. It was a lot of moms involved there. So
You're like, this is great. I got a one-stop shop and the graduation.
So it was kind of low key on Sunday because of all the festivities on Saturday with the graduation. But it was nice low key. We did a brunch for all the moms. So we cooked and had some mimosas and all that cool stuff. So
yes, mimosas are a must for Mother's Day. Anita says, hello, everyone. Hi,
Good
Mr.
evening,
and
Anita.
Mrs.
Aw,
Pineapple.
hello, Anita. Hi,
CPJ.
Jay,
Alex is obviously team Deb. He said she's
When
off her rocker.
I got to go to Lubbock last, Anita invited me to have some strawberry cake at her house, and so my mom was with me. Mama Gita and I made a trip over there, and Anita gave me this giant chunk of strawberry cake, and I was like, "You don't have to, but I'll totally take it. Absolutely."
Right. You don't
It's so
have to.
good.
Glad you did.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. I really remember that and
Oh,
appreciate that.
Jameed, here's a question for you. Does graduation mean he's off your payroll?
Ooh,
kinda ish. Because off payroll would mean you don't have to help them live, don't pay car insurance. So we're starting on that road to independence, but he is pretty independent. He's not a needy kid. So, when they're not needy, it's actually easier because you don't really have to question what they're doing. And so he was able to come out of college with no student loans. So
Oh, that's a
wow.
great.
a
man.
blessing. So yeah, that's great without going into the military. So
Even better.
Did you hear about that school that I think it was an HBCU in East Texas that during their commencement ceremonies, an anonymous donor paid off the entire class of 2022's student debt, which equaled up about $300,000.
that would
That's
be great.
amazing.
Well, it's amazing that it was only $300,000. First of all, but,
That's what I meant.
yeah,
I'll be-
but
I
it
don't
was,
know.
it
It must
was
have been a tiny HBCU.
Maybe
Class
it
of
was.
3.
it was a great gesture. I can tell you that. So
Yeah, their parents are pretty happy this weekend.
Yeah.
Mhm, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so I can talk, but since it's cool, since Dr. Pineapple's got to talk about her day and stuff, I can talk about something else. Then I don't have to talk because I'm not a mom. I did wish my mom a happy Mother's Day. I did wish my wife. I did make her a menu actually in Google Forms, and I was like, "Here, pick 2." She had 2 of 3 entrees to choose from, and sides, and a dessert, and everything. And so she
Oh,
went
you
through
were
there.
fancy.
And I will tell you, I was surprised too because all the food that I made for her all came out at the exact same time. So the vegetables, they were all like probably 2 minutes apart, but the steak was perfect medium rare. The shrimp had just finished cooking, and the vegetables had just come out the oven. And it was just
It's
like,
really
man,
good.
I was like,
Oh,
no
wow.
restaurant's going to get it that fresh, that quick. And so I was like, man, that's pretty cool. But
And without like a big wait.
and with that, and
Yeah.
I thought about it going out to eat, but I remember it gets really busy on Mother's Day. And I remember last year there was that big fight at Olive Garden between the moms. Remember the families and stuff? Ugh.
no, I didn't know about that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Or not the families. I think it was the Olive Garden and a family. It got ugly. It was just
Reservation
like,
messed
really?
up or something.
Yeah. And I was just like, nah. And that's not really my wife's thing.
Yeah,
She
I'm
doesn't-
not a big goer out to eater.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay, it's fine. But things had happened. Our daughter got first in a competition.
Whoop whoop. Yes.
What kind
Oh
of
my
competition?
gosh. So sorry,
She
guys.
got first in what is it called? Horse where you oh my gosh. Showmanship.
Showmanship.
Oh, okay.
Showmanship. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
like how you know how to control the horse and lead the horse and do all
And she
of
got
those
first
things.
place? That's
Yes, she
amazing.
did.
Congratulations.
I know. I was
That's pretty
so
exciting.
happy for her.
So, all right. So let's get into this. We asked you to come on tonight for one big reason, primarily, Dr. Pina. And that was because May, if you do or do not know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes, it is.
So who better to get on than a mental health professional?
Yes, thank you.
What a great
That would
idea.
be me.
Thank you for joining us.
Because it's not me. Although sometimes I think it is, but it's
Well,
not.
You need a mental health professional.
So I won't be there yet. I'm kind of a mental health professional by proxy, is how I put it in
I
this
said,
house.
Jimmy, no, not at all.
Thank you for setting him in line
Not at
because he
all.
lets us know very frequently by
Mm,
proxy.
Not at
I
all.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, that is
That's my
very much.
unofficial title, and I'm sticking to it. Okay.
Okay. I
Because I'm
got
an
you.
accredited Facebook lawyer, so.
Private
Head on-
investigator.
You're what? You're an
Private
instigator.
investigator. No, I was saying Sandy is a Facebook true crime investigator.
That's true. That's
That
true.
is
She's
true.
something, all right.
Joe said something. What was the word? He's like, I'm an extra. What was it that you extra special something?
He
I don't
did
think
say
it was a
you were
compliment.
special. He
I
did
don't
say
think
you
it
were
was a
special earlier
compliment
today.
though.
When anything says special in it, it's not a compliment, Sandy.
Yeah, I'm
No.
just
Read
starting
him,
to get a
Joe.
little bit angry now.
Mm-mm.
I need
No.
to process my emotions.
It's good that you're here, then,
Let's talk about it. Let's
Dr.
talk
Pina.
about it. Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself as far as as far as your profession goes. Professional.
So, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And one thing that a lot of people do not know is that there's a psychiatrist that is a medical doctor. So, they went to med school. There's psychologists who did not go to med school, but they did get their doctorate degree in psychology. There are licensed clinical social workers who are social workers who also do therapy. There are marriage and family therapists, which would be me. I specialize in working with families and couples. I also work with individuals and groups. And then there are licensed counseling professionals who go straight to school just to do counseling and they can practice with their master's degree. So I am the LMFT, and I know that a lot of people get that really confused, but that's what I do.
Thank you,
Wow.
because yeah, I didn't realize that there was so many levels. It was such a process. But I want to say this: in preparing for tonight, for having you on tonight, I discovered that mental health awareness was actually established in 1949, and I
Mm,
feel like we are just now maybe 2000ish talking about mental health. Like it's actually something
mhm.
that we are aware of, and I just find that hard to believe that in 1949 we thought about mental health maybe and then we put
Mhm.
it to the back burner. Like, why do you think that is? Or maybe it's just me.
Well, I definitely think that COVID made mental health
I was
more
thinking the same thing.
accessible, and
Interesting.
lots of people's mental and emotional health shifted during COVID because it
Okay.
was a huge change. If you think about change, change, whether it's good change or not so good change, it creates stress. So if you think about if you've been married, if you think about your wedding day, right? That's really exciting. It's something that's so great, but it's also stinking stressful,
Right.
right?
Right.
So with COVID, it kind of caused this domino effects of different things to happen in people's lives. Maybe they lost their job or they lost some
Mm.
income, which led to housing insecurity, which led to food insecurity, which there was loneliness for a lot of people. And so I think because more of the general population was reporting mental health concerns, that now we're really starting to talk about that in 2022.
Do you think that there were
Interesting.
some other factors outside of or within, uh, the way things have been these last couple of years? Like, were there other factors such as people were reporting certain mental health diagnose or not diagnosed,
Oh,
but issues? What were
mhm.
some of the ones that can
Yeah.
talk about?
Well, the top two, let me tell you the top two that kind of they flip flop with each other are always anxiety and depression. So from year to year, we might have more folks who report depression or anxiety, and they usually flip flop with each other. And during COVID, a lot of folks experienced anxiety
Yes, yes.
and they experienced depression as COVID continued. So it really started off and continued with a lot of anxiety. And I heard Jameek go, yes, yes, yes. um, but then anxiety can sometimes transition into a depression. And that is that feeling of loneliness and feeling alone. It's actually mental health week. This week is all about loneliness.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So real quick, Jimmy, you actually work in a sort of like adjacent or even directly in the medical field yourself, don't you?
Yep. I'm a healthcare consultant.
Well, what does that mean?
So for surgical services, I go around and look at people's surgical services operations and help them get ready for accreditation and tell them things that they're not doing right and give them some templates of how to do right and some policy changes. That's kind of what I do. And education and
Huh,
training that goes along with that.
You've been in that for a while,
nice.
haven't you?
Yeah, I've been doing it for quite a while. Not
Yes.
not as much as a consultant, but on the operations side, and then I was blessed enough to move to the consultant side before this started. But I really, really, I can identify with the fact that I think everybody has anxiety, and it
Hmm.
wasn't cool or acceptable to kind of be honest about your anxiety. Like one of my coworkers on the executive team, she can't go down escalators.
Hmm.
So we would go to conferences and she would always disappear. And so, but a prime example was she was able to identify during this pandemic to say, well, I get anxiety about going down instead of calling it something else.
Right.
And it
Hmm.
really kind of triggers you to kind of think about what are some things that you don't like or that's not me. That's really
Hmm.
anxiety. So I think people have been more willing to embrace things that they don't like or things that they avoid and properly identify them as anxiety as a way to start seeking help from people like Dr. Pina.
So when you said they kind of flip flop every year, anxiety and
Hmm.
did you say depression?
Hmm. Yeah.
So anxiety and depression flip flop every year. It makes me the question I want to ask is like how having this platform that you're on right now, how do you what is it that you want to tell us? What's a message that you can tell us either if we're having those challenges
Hmm.
or if we are with someone in a circle that has those challenges, how we could be helpful. I don't know, maybe even both questions if you can
Hmm.
talk to, or whichever one's pulling on your heart more.
Absolutely. I think kind of following up on what Jameed was talking about, just naming what's going on for you. So he talked about his coworker starting to use the word anxiety. And anxiety can be called a lot of things. So nervousness, stress, fear. So I always talk about the continuum of emotions, right? Anger
Mm,
might be the predominant emotion, but it starts with irritation and it ends with rage, right? So there's a lot of different emotions on that anger scale. So we don't have to necessarily call anxiety anxiety, but just start using some of those feeling words is always helpful because feeling words will connect you to your mental and emotional health. They'll make you think about that. So that's one thing that I would encourage people to do is just to start using those feeling words in your vocabulary because lots of us don't do that. I think as a friend, one of the most important things to do is when you talk to a friend about seeking mental health, you really want to talk about those behaviors. So you don't want to talk about how you're feeling about the situation or how your friend looks awful, right? You want to talk about the change in behaviors. Like I've noticed that you haven't been, coming to church, or I
mm,
noticed that you haven't been, or that every time we go around to catch the elevator, you disappear, right?
mhm.
That's what I'm noticing. And so that's a great way when you talk about behaviors to not be offensive to a friend, but just to reach out and say, hey, I want to help support you.
That's like reaching out, though, almost feels like, I guess, maybe, what am I trying to say? Like you're overstepping.
Mm.
But I
Mm-hmm,
guess
mm-hmm.
Mm.
but I guess you have to think about it like you're trying to be there for your friend
Mm-hmm.
and be an avenue for them. Is that maybe
Yeah,
how you have to go
You know,
about it?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think, one thing that James Baldwin says, and I love this quote, is if I love you, then I have to tell you the truth. Right? Somebody Google
I
that
love
Oh,
for
that.
me. Make
I
sure I'm
love that.
saying that
it's
correctly.
hey, even if he didn't, Dr. Pineapple said it tonight.
And so that is a part of love, right? Is that those deep relationships you have, those are the people who tell you the truth because they love you and they want you to grow. It's really the more superficial relationships where we feel like it's not our place to kind of overstep. And if we feel that way, maybe we can encourage somebody else who's closer to
Okay.
be able to talk to that person.
Okay. Makes sense.
You were very close, actually. It was, if I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you don't see.
Oh, I got half of it.
You did great. I mean,
Come
I
on,
really
James.
like that, how
James
that
So
comes
Baldwin,
about.
the scholar.
Hobeka says, so we shouldn't try to one up them.
Joe, I want you to do that in all of your close relationships and see how that turns
Introduce
out for you.
himself
And then
as,
just let us know. Let us know how that works out for you, okay?
uh,
So CPJ says, I learned during COVID how much I need structure and several hours of complete silence daily. When everyone came home, I had wild anxiety because of being around people when I'm not used to it. I'm used to 8 hours of complete silence and by myself Monday through Friday. I had no idea how much it would shake me up.
Absolutely.
And Joe
Absolutely.
says the producer can't do escalators either, and neither can her mom or her aunt. So I
Yeah.
think it's
really? Your mom?
my mom and her mom can't
Wow.
do them either.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I never knew that was a thing, but now it's amazing. I just heard about 3, 4 people who it's a thing for. So, okay. Um, Man, okay, so here's the thing. To be cognizant of time, because I know that Dr. Pineapples likes to make sure she gets to bed on time. I
Hmm.
have a ton of questions over here on the site that I want to ask and get to. Is that okay with you, Dr. Pineapples?
Yeah, go for it. And
Okay.
Sandy and Jameen, if y'all want to jump in, feel free.
All right. So this uh, story comes from a viewer who
Okay.
messaged me, and I'm going to share anonymously. And
Okay.
here's what they say. I have been or had been talking to this guy for 5 years.
Hmm.
He was in prison. I know that I shouldn't have, but recently he started dealing drugs.
Hmm.
I know because of the slang that he used. I would put money on his books, but I guess not like he wanted me to.
Hmm.
Anyway, he hasn't called me since April 4th.
Hmm.
He started talking to someone else because I wouldn't do what he wanted me to do. Good for
Hmm.
you. He he's sending that girl money from the drugs he's selling because she told me.
Hmm.
I guess my question would be, when will I get over this? How do you move on from this? Is it natural to want to have them get their feelings hurt like they hurt me?
Hmm. Yeah. So a lot of times and again, I just want to kind of qualify this. Of course, this person, I haven't sat and done an assessment or done any of that whole professional stuff. But I can tell you, like in general, a lot of times when I meet with clients and they share their story with me, my brain kind of looks at kind of the root of the situation. So if you think about a weed, right, that's growing in your yard, I was telling Jay Pineapples, we got these like splotches of non-grass in our yard and it's really bothering me. So there's something wrong
Uh-oh.
there,
Uh-oh.
right? And so that's what I can hear this person saying, right? That there's something really wrong in here. And
Hmm.
so I really like to think about pulling it out by the root because we don't want to just cut off the top, right? The symptoms, because then it'll just grow back. We want to pull it out at the root. And what I hear is at the root of this is feelings of betrayal. I can hear that, and feelings of hurt. And so it's not necessarily wanting to deal with this person or wanting to have them hurt. It sounds like it's more dealing with those feelings of betrayal and those feelings of hurt and kind of getting those resolved. So how that happens, I'd have to know this person and work with that person and kind of, work through that. But that really sounds like that's what the root is. And if you focus at the root and you get that healed, usually things go great.
Awesome.
Wow.
Because I was just going to say cut them for betrayal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You could do that too.
No,
That is
Sandy,
an option.
Sandy.
That's why we
Any
have a
advice
professional.
that Sandy gives on this show is not professional advice
Not endorsed
and
by the show.
and not
Don't
endorsed
do
either.
it. Don't do
Not
it, kids.
represented
Sandy
by-
just talks sheet on her own, okay? That's all that is.
That's true.
Okay, here we go. Here's another question. Sandy, you have to help me with this one. What I cut out here that said, but do therapists have to report if they 100% know and suspect? I think this is saying if a therapist knows that someone is going to harm others or themselves, do they have to report it to law enforcement or someone?
Yes.
100. If you as a therapist, 100%
Mhm.
that they are going to hurt someone or themselves, do you have to report it?
You do. So you have to report it to the person if you have access to them. If you tell the person that they are in danger, as well as telling the authorities. I don't want to get too deep into all that stuff. I was going to say there's a reporting portal and all that stuff. Y'all don't care about all that. Just in case the person has weapons and that kind of stuff. So there's a step and there's a time limit that we have to do that. But it's only if it's a specific person that the person says they're going to harm. They have a specific plan and it's in the immediate future. So they tell you like a date, like this is going to happen. So if we're sitting in therapy and you're like, "Ooh, I can't stand so and so," if they came up to me right now, I would punch them in the face. Let's do a Sandy. I would cut them.
I'm not going to go to therapy anytime
So,
soon.
if Sandy said if they came into your office right now and I would cut them, that's not an immediate threat and danger because they're not going to walk into my office, right? But if Sandy said so and so works over at what do y'all have down there? United, right? So and so works over at United and gets off at 6:00. And when they get off at 6:00, I'm gonna go over to United and cut them with this here knife I have in my hand right here.
What do you think about my knife?
I would go, okay. Well, let's talk about that. I try to calm Sandy down, and then I would share with her that I'm about to tell the person that you're going to cut them at 6:00, and tell the
Okay.
authorities that you're about to go cut somebody at 6:00. So those are the two different scenarios. There's some different criteria that they have to meet so that I can break that confidentiality.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So don't be telling people your plans.
Okay, so this one is kind of long, but I'll tell you, it surrounds PTSD, Dr. Pineapples.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I think I kind of mixed up the comments. We're talking about a famous trial that's going on right now. And one of the things that they had alluded to is they were saying they keep saying PTSD at the hands of the accused.
Mm-hmm.
How do they know in their safe environment interview it wasn't the physical abuse they experienced because of their parent?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that's like the whole question.
Like it wasn't a past trauma that created the current PTSD. Why are they blaming it on Johnny Depp? Right?
Does that sound right, Sandy? Is that
Yes,
sound
that's correct.
Lines? Okay.
Yep,
all right.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah. So PTSD. Okay. So every diagnosis has certain criteria that have to be met. So in this category, it has to meet 3 of the 5. In this category, it has to meet 2 of the 3. In this category, so To have PTSD, there are certain criteria that has to be met. First of all, um, if that criteria, say it is what used to be called flashbacks, right, or memories of the event, that would be a key differentiator for where that trauma is coming from. So if it's a memory with Johnny, then the trauma is probably coming from Johnny. If it's a memory from childhood, then the trauma is probably coming from childhood. There's also avoiders. And so, say somebody got attacked at, I'm not going to say a big brand name store. Let's call it
Flobies.
Flobies. Somebody got attacked at Flobies, right? They would start to avoid Flobies, right? That'd be one of the criteria I could check off. Now, did they go to Flobies as a child? Is that where the trauma happened? Or did they go to Flobies with Johnny all the time? So you can kind of, if you want to say this particular trauma happened at this time, there are some key indicators that would tell you where the trauma is coming from. So there's also one-time events, right? So like a one-time trauma, and there's also complex trauma, which means several traumas over the lifetime.
Oh, wow.
So so PTSD, you can have PTSD that, I don't know how to word it properly, but PTSD that can overarch your entire life, or can you have PTSD based on certain events and things, objects, people?
It has to have come from a trauma.
So if you've experienced trauma in your life, any kind of trauma,
Hmm.
PTSD can be associated with that trauma.
That's correct. Yep.
So if I had a trauma with like I can share, I remember being in a car accident when it was raining, and
Exactly.
then for a few years after that, whenever I'd get caught in heavy rains, I would freak out like
Absolutely.
crazy.
Yep.
My
But
mom has that
then,
trauma.
yeah,
Yep.
it's intense for me. But I could also have something else that
Hmm.
triggers a different a
Your
different
comic book
trauma.
trauma.
Sandy, a different trauma
Hmm.
that I could experience the same symptoms of PTSD again, but it's related to that, and the
It
driving in the
probably
rain
wouldn't
is
be
separate.
exactly. It probably wouldn't be related to driving in the rain. There there is something called generalized anxiety. It's where
Mm.
something happens that makes you anxious, and then it becomes like a fear or anxiety that's generalized across time. So it's just like a consistent anxiety, but your trauma is probably going to be related to that situation. So driving in the rain, lots of people after car accidents cannot drive. They have, increased heartbeat, all of that stuff, memory loss, that kind of stuff. When they drive, they're just so anxious, and their body is trying to protect them. They're like, don't you remember the last time you sat behind the wheel?
Right,
Like,
right,
why are we
right, right.
doing this
Yeah.
again, dude? Why?
Sorry.
That's silly, right? So our bodies start to react and say, hey, why are you doing this? But if you had a different trauma, it would probably be related. Your fear, right, or your avoidance would probably be related to that specific situation.
I have a question for you, Dr. Pineapples. So you're talking about having a fear. So how do I word this? So like say because I have a fear of driving after an accident
Yeah.
and I mean, what if I just say I'm not going to feed into my fear and I'm going to continue? Or if I feed into it, it makes it worse. I mean,
Mhm.
I guess I don't know what I'm trying to ask. Like, so can you just avoid and then still keep pushing through so that you don't feed into the fear and it overtakes you? Is that a thing?
That is a thing. It's called prolonged exposure. It's a therapy technique, and it's
Oh,
evidence based, and it works. So you're saying kind of push through it, right?
right, right.
And so prolonged exposure is all about continuing to retrain your mind and your body. You go back into that situation and go, see, nothing happened this time. And you go back and say, see, Brandon, nothing happened this time. And then you go back and say, see, again, nothing happened until your brain and your body is retrained that it's okay to drive that car. So
Is
that's
it
prolonged exposure. You asked another question that I was gonna answer. You said something else. Oh, avoidance is one of the worst things that you can do if you have a fear.
Okay.
It's one of the worst things you can do because then your mind and your body goes, see, that's why they won't go around that corner because there's something back there. Right? Don't
Yeah.
ever go back there. So it reinforces the
The tr-
negative thoughts and
And,
the
and,
negative
and that's
cognitions.
interesting because when you think about it, a car accident is something that is very hard to avoid ever driving again.
Right.
Mm.
But some of this other trauma that we can put in the back of our mind, in the back of our pocket, and have that prolonged, we don't have to do it every day, but
Right.
that it still doesn't go away.
Right.
And so I kind of, I was listening to all the things that you were saying, and it was really making me think about how I think a lot of the trauma manifested during the pandemic because it's not like a car accident that you have to be able to get over that to move forward.
Yeah.
It's other things that you don't have to be exposed to a lot, but then now you don't have as much interaction with other people. Now you have more interaction with your own mind. So all those things that kept you from confronting those things can creep up on you. And I do feel like some things crept up on me as well during this pandemic. Some things that I was like, oh, that's no problem. Oh, it is a problem that you just haven't addressed it. And so, and I feel like that happened to all of us around the country during this to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The only people who benefited from COVID was those introverts and those folks who just wanted to be left alone anyway.
Who'd been training for years.
Those folks were like, "Whoo, thank you." Like my anxiety, I can turn off the camera if I want to. I don't have to interact with people. This is wonderful. So those folks who like to isolate themselves, they had really enjoyed isolation with COVID.
Let me ask a question back to what you were talking about a moment ago too, Dr. Pina. So when Sandy was bringing up I think, was it immersion or
prolonged exposure?
Prolonged exposure therapy. So prolonged exposure therapy, is that something that most people kind of do on their own, or is that something that should be handled with a professional?
Yes. Yeah.
So me telling someone, like, if I went to Sandy and be like, Sandy, just get over it. Go do it again. It's fine. Go. It's probably not a good idea.
I have an example of that if y'all would like to hear.
Please, let's hear it.
So I worked in food service for a little bit, and there was this lady who said she didn't like chocolate. And I was very heartbroken for her that she didn't like chocolate. So we helped her try to recognize why she didn't like chocolate. So apparently growing up, her mother would give her one of those chocolate X-Lax every single day. Every day. And so I decided, let's make a sundae. I'm going to put chocolate on yours, and you're going to love it because who doesn't love chocolate sundaes? Anyway, it didn't work out really well. And so that's why I'm not a therapist. And so she almost called in the next day.
Not a professional therapist.
Because she got really sick, but it wasn't like, so I almost broke her.
So please learn from Sandy and don't do like that.
But I didn't learn my lesson, in case y'all are wondering.
I didn't be in the next week. Yeah.
So then Sandy went crazy. She's like, we're going to do it again. This time it'll be different, though. Promise.
And this time.
That actually sounds like a little bit of, that might have been, and again, I can't diagnose anybody, but that could have been some Munchausen syndrome there. Giving your child X-Lax every day.
Right. It's just terrible.
Yeah. But you did look at you getting to the root.
Yes,
it's
because I want to know why.
She had
Don't
that
encourage her, Dr. Pineapples.
Okay.
Don't encourage her,
That was
please.
terrible. You just snipped the top of the weed off, and
I liked when she was talking.
Some of us have to stick around after she leaves, okay? All right. Do y'all have some other questions or
Usually what we would do with that, Sandy, is like if she wanted to, say she really wanted to eat chocolate, right? So the first thing we would do is show her a picture of chocolate. We would rank the level of anxiety from 0 to 10, 10 being the most anxiety you've ever felt in your life, 0 being no anxiety at all. She would rank looking at the chocolate, and then we would work with that stimuli until she got to a 3 or under. A 0 is great. Then we would move on maybe to the smell of chocolate, right? So it's these incremental build ups to being able to eat the chocolate. You should never pour it directly on somebody's sundae.
Huh.
Man, I love
I'm
when
gonna
you
go back. I'm gonna take
describe that.
notes. I'm gonna go back and listen to this again and make sure I do it right.
I love when you explain things that like that in the psychological terms. That's pretty hot. So anyhow, um, I want to ask some other questions, but I'm going to wait because we did bring you on to talk about mental health awareness, and so I also want to make sure that you kind of being in the mental health, not kind of being in the mental health profession. This is a month/week where a lot of us maybe we don't understand some things about mental health. So is there like a personal message that you kind of have that you're kind of like, you're always prepared to be like, yeah, I really encourage people this or want to say this about it. And I want to make sure we give you a nice time to talk about that. That way we can have some questions and the audience is able to hear it and maybe ask some questions if they have some also.
Yeah, sure. I always say that mental health is just as important as your physical health. Your mental health is actually your physical health. And we don't put those two things together, but it is. So they're just as important. If you care about your physical health, then you should care about your mental health. The other thing is that mental health has been so stigmatized for such a long time that I think people are afraid about what happens behind those doors, right? I think societally we are also trained not to be vulnerable and not to share about our feelings or emotions or things that we do that might not have been the best. And
Mm-hmm.
so to sit in a room one on one and kind of and be vulnerable with somebody can be very scary. But I tell people that it's like a spa day. Like most people, after their first therapy appointment, um, at least with me, I don't know about
Right.
other therapists,
Spa by Dr. Pina.
but most folks, when they go to the therapist and they leave for that first appointment, they're like, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. Like, I wish I wasn't so afraid of this. This was wonderful. Like, I feel great. So I would encourage people to give it a try. Just like you would give a goat yoga a try, right? You've seen those people put the goat on their back for some reason while
Oh
they're
my
doing
gosh,
yoga.
yeah.
They're
Who
cute, but they
knows?
poop on you.
Who knows why people do that? But there's something fun about it. So go to therapy. If you'll do that, if you'll bungee jump, go to therapy, right? Just give it a try. There's also lots of ways to do therapy nowadays. You can text anonymously.
Oh, that's
You
cool.
That's for
can
the
do
millennials out there.
virtual. You can do virtual therapy, or you can do in person therapy. Like there's a way to get therapy or mental health services nowadays. So there's usually not that huge of a barrier.
Oh, amazing.
I appreciate that. Do you mind if so? I just want to piggyback a little bit. So, being married to a mental health professional, there are a few observations that I've made that I share with folks. In addition to that, is kind of like a lot of people. You may think that the therapist that you find is the therapist that you're just going to stick with forever, and having a therapist is kind of like having a doctor or even choosing a friend. You do not have to stick with the therapist that you pair up with first. If the relationship doesn't feel good and you're just not kind of, I've had that. I remember one of my therapists, I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm really not feeling this. I
don't like you.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna cut this off and have a good life. Thank you. And then, just go find another one.
Yeah.
And so you can totally do that. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not an issue.
I felt like this was
look at
Hey,
here
Look, if it wasn't going to work, I would have probably gotten shut down by now. But these are 18 years or 17 years I've had with this wonderful, amazing woman. So if I haven't learned a little bit of something by now, then I don't know that we, still be together kind of thing. So, but in addition to that, and I think a lot of our viewers have seen this too, it's like you do have to give yourself room for the feelings to kind of happen. So you shouldn't have to feel guilty about feeling sad, mad, happy, or any of those things. You shouldn't have to feel any particular way with the idea of seeing a therapist because it's all about taking care of yourself.
Well, let me just jump in really quick because all our feelings are um, they're telling us that we need to pay attention. So if you feel sad, it's just a little sad bubble going, "Hey, something's going on here. Pay attention to me," right? Or if you're really angry about something, like for example, I always tell folks when you get really angry, if you have kids at your kids, really the root of that is fear. You're so scared for them.
Mm.
You're so scared for them. You want them to be healthy and happy. That's the reason why you're usually so angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they
So
don't
I'm
obey
scared
or
for
they.
my husband.
Okay, I said kids, Sandy.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I just went.
I said children.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Redirection. I feel like that's hearsay, but okay.
Poor
Oh
Eric.
gosh.
Golly.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
No, but they really are. They really are just our emotions just say, "Hey, pay attention. There's something that you need to think about or understand here." That's it.
Are you raising your hand, Jamid?
No, that
Oh,
was just great. I was just thinking through, like, how do we? Because you've really made the case to rational thinking human beings, right? And I think one of the flaws that we have during mental health awareness months or times, or especially professionals like yourself, Dr. Pina, who are so professional, is we have to think of a different way to message it to the group who needs the most help, who is absolutely positively not interested in talking to anyone. And for me, that's really the hardest group to crack because
Yeah.
the pitch that you made is pretty easy to make to your rational thinking adults who are going through uh, the normal ups and downs of life. And I really feel like everybody should talk to somebody, and not just somebody with an interest in your life, like your
Mhm.
spouse, your aunt, or even your religious people, because they still have an interest in your life. So how do you make that pitch to that group of people who need help the most, who are just adamant that they don't need help?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it really depends. So, just off the top, I'll say that therapy is always voluntary unless there's danger to self or others. Then therapy becomes involuntary. But therapy is always voluntary. So people don't have to go and they can stop services at any time. So I'll preface with that. But as a couples and family therapist, I really believe that our behavior has like a kind of a ripple effect, right? So when you throw that stone in the pond and it does that ripple effect, I believe that we impact our systems and our systems impact us. The things around us impact us. So you can always truthfully say, can you come to support or can you come to help this other person in your life? Why don't you all come together? Why don't you come as a family? Right. So it doesn't, the key there, what I hear you saying, is it Jamid?
Yes, perfect.
Yay! Jamid, is that um, this person doesn't feel like there's anything going on with them.
Mhm.
We don't need to put a spotlight on that person. We can put a spotlight on the system and have the system work together to become a better system. And so that's one of the ways that you can encourage people is just to come in with their family, come in with their best friend, come in with whoever, to be able to help to support them. And in the kind of like this conversation today, we're not in therapy, but there's these little light bulbs that go off like, oh,
Right.
that happens
Wait,
automatically.
are you saying I can't count this as therapy? Because I was going to send you
You
a
cannot.
form.
You cannot. That's unfortunate.
We can't put your Venmo on the screen, babe.
I used to be licensed in Texas, but nope, you can't. I let that
Oh,
lapse.
Jameed's in. I forget where you're at, Jameed.
Oh, where are you?
Atlanta,
Georgia.
I was going to say he's an ATL, isn't he?
That's right. That's
Okay.
Thank you,
I don't know
Sandy.
why I
Thank
started
you, Dandy
dancing when
Sandy,
you
for
said
caring.
Atlanta, but
Thank you, Dandy.
Hey, I
Sandy,
care. I just had a
for
momentary lapse of judgment. Okay, memory.
I
That's
have a
all.
question. Is there therapy for individuals that lack a self-discipline?
yes. Mhm.
There is.
Yeah, usually there's behavioral therapists that will work with specifically behavioral therapy for behaviors. And so if people just want to go in to change a habit or a behavior or to be more disciplined, then you can go to a behavioral therapist to help you with that.
Interesting. I will
Mhm.
let her know.
Well,
Thank you,
God.
Jamie.
We've got a ton of comments, Sandy. Do you want to?
We do. I
hit
know.
some of them?
You ready?
Oh,
I
yeah,
do.
yeah. Let's start
Okay.
with. Let me throw this one on there first, just because, real quick.
Hello, John. How are you?
So just, I wanted to
go
show
ahead.
this comment. Joe said I
Okay.
was a special type of person.
You are, Sandy. You are.
Interesting.
Huh.
Interesting.
I don't know.
That's another word. Interesting.
Interesting.
You're a trusting type of person, Sandy.
Right. So CPJ wants to know, what if your client tells you, and it's obvious they are being physically abused by their partner, do you as a therapist have to report that?
Oh, so to adults, you do not have to report domestic abuse. So to
Oh,
adults
interesting.
does not need to be reported
By a
But-
professional.
by a professional, yes.
Really?
But you
That's
would
correct.
report it like
If it were a child,
parent-child.
yes.
Okay.
If it were a child, yeah, or if it were somebody who was elderly or disabled, considered disabled through the state, that's a report I would make. If it's two adults, able-bodied, then I do not have to make that report.
Are there any
That's
consequences
interesting.
or benefits if you do make a report?
Oh, that would break confidentiality. I'd lose my license if I reported something
Oh.
that wasn't.
Oh, wow.
So just
Well, that sheds
FYI,
light.
when we
Because
get
they'd be like,
upset at
"Oh, she shared my business. She told me this was confidential."
So just FYI, I want to put this into a real world scenario kind of thing here. If someone got upset with the therapist who didn't share that information when they felt like they should have, it's kind of like, yeah, but then that therapist loses their livelihood and their family that relies on them and, is there. And it's like, and there's this rule book out there that says, yeah, don't do that. So
Yeah.
just want to put that out there.
You can come to me and tell me pretty much anything that you've done in the past that is not currently happening, and I cannot share that.
Like a murder?
That's right.
Wow.
Please don't encourage her. Sandy, stop.
No, I'm just.
Okay.
That was a legit
Eric,
question.
run
I didn't
now.
know.
Run.
No, stop it. No, that was a legit question. I didn't know that you couldn't.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
All right, let me
let's
go
keep
to
on
this.
with the comments.
So Jason says, yeah, I do that with hospitals since most for my teenagers were visiting my mom in hospitals. I think he was referring back to like a
PTSD,
fear
I
of,
think.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe said my daughter, and I believe this was for when he said like introverts that weren't phased by any of these COVID things. CPJ says I'm a 0 with chocolate. These hips don't lie.
Oh,
Joe says,
Got
yeah,
it.
not
What
a death
words?
by chocolate dessert.
I've made something like that once.
Anita said, when I was in kindergarten, my teacher made me drink milk. Now I hate milk.
oh, Anita.
Anita, I'm going to go over
so
to your house and
sorry.
we're going to work on that.
No. Stop now.
Don't open the door, Anita.
Stop it. She's already shanked people.
Oh
She's
gosh.
talked about how
Oh
she's
gosh.
I'll be there tomorrow.
You know what I see
Roasted
happening? She's
chocolate,
gotten
and
her
now it's
assistant.
milk.
Yeah, now she's getting her assistant after the show to make all the boards and get all the forms
my
made.
gosh, Sandy.
Yes, we're going to do this together, friend. So CPJ says, can you go to therapy when you don't have a specific reason to need to go? Would someone benefit if they don't have something very specific
that's
like
a good
abuse,
question.
depression, etc.?
CPJ is on fire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said it, Jimmy. I mean, absolutely. You can go to therapy for insight, right? You can go to therapy for premarital counseling. Like you can go to therapy for any reason if you want to improve yourself. If you have specific goals, go to therapy. If you don't need it, your therapist will tell you that. An ethical therapist will say, "Ooh, I don't know
Um,
that this is the service that you need. Maybe a coach, maybe this, maybe that."
Okay.
I think,
Interesting.
Sandy, we probably should ask Alex to go see a therapist because he threw an angry face on
I
our.
saw that. Don't worry, I'll beat him later.
Never mind then. As long as you got it taken care of.
I got you. I got you.
No, no,
John, you better watch
no.
out too.
See,
You
she
better
knows
don't
she
give.
can legally say that nothing's gonna happen. She's like,
Yeah, she knows she can't get reported.
yeah.
Okay, go
That's
on.
that's
Oh.
what serial killers do. They take information in really quickly and convert it into devious plans.
Oh
Not
my
to say
goodness.
Sandy isn't a serial killer,
Not to
Not
By
to
say.
proxy,
say that.
maybe.
but not to say that she's not.
She's not.
She vicariously
Dr.
lives out her murder thoughts through the true crime serial killers she watches.
While getting angry at them for messing up.
Yeah, she's slowly saying, "You shouldn't have done that."
Dang it, Brenda. Why'd you do that? Okay. Dr. Pineapples, can you analyze Sandy Dandy and tell us why she's obsessed with the crime shows and why Mr. Pineapple's obsessed with the Johnny Depp trial?
I can't analyze because that's a formal thing, and I need to get paid for that. It takes a lot of time.
Right.
But I
That's
will
right.
take a guess. I think Sandy is very intelligent, and her mind likes to solve problems. She's a problem solver. And so I think she loves true crime because it's like new information for her brain, right? That would be my guess. And I think that Jaime is interested in Johnny Depp because Johnny's like the man. Okay. Johnny is so cool, calm, and he's been that way since he was like a child, like so
It seems
young.
like it's
Since he was
more than
21.
one Pina interested in Johnny.
What'd you say?
I said it sounds like there's more than one Pina interested in Johnny Depp.
I've been a Johnny Depp fan since I was young.
Staking out the competition.
Bruh, there's no competition. There's no competition. Okay.
Together.
None. It's all good.
Now we know. So Joanne says, Dr. Pineapples, any insight on Naomi Judd? Why is suicide the reason these people feel is their only way out, even when they have therapy?
So when you're suicidal, that's what your brain is telling you is the way out. So there aren't other options, right? So if you think about it, the way that we all have different perceptions about how we can make the world better, right? So some of us, or just think about our political groups. I'm not going to name them all, but there's the Green Party, there's the Republican Party, there's the Progressive Party, there's the Democratic Party. We all have these different perspectives, and our brain tells us this is the way to go, right? And so when you're suicidal, that's really the only option for folks is to have death by suicide. So it's their brain telling them that. Yeah.
Wow.
One of the things I've learned throughout the years being married to you, babe, is that a lot of times mental health is not looked at sometimes through the proper lens, right? Like we see mental health and things like suicide and PTSD and depression even. We see those things through a lens that hasn't experienced those from like a clinical diagnosis perspective. Like we think like, oh, I get depressed sometimes and I just pick myself up and I just got to keep going and stuff like that.
Then that's
But
not depressing.
Right.
Right.
So, or people who are like, and I'm guilty of some of these things. I've been guilty of them. I told you just yesterday, I felt like since being married to you, one of the things that's been revealed to me is, how to have a healthier view and perspective on people who deal with mental health issues than I did previously, and so before I married you, I was very judgmental and very, had thoughts of like, why are they being dumb? They can just get out of the situation they're in, or make a new decision, or get themselves out of those scenarios or whatever. But these last 17 years have really shown me is that, like, man, there are some times where people, it's not as easy
Can't.
as it is as we'd like to think it is. There's so many extenuating circumstances, physiological, external,
Oh my
all these
goodness.
things. And
People should study the brain. Okay. If you just study the brain, you would be blown away by, oops, you'd be blown away. That's my kids yelling. By the, oh man, I don't know. Okay. So I'm not going to nerd out, but the brain
you
is
can totally nerd out.
fascinating.
You can totally.
Like, there are studies where you can touch different parts of your brain or stimulate different parts of your brain, and you have a whole new perspective. You can become excited and happy. You can become depressed and hopeless just by the different things that are going on in your brain, right? So it is something that is physiological, that is occurring with a lot of people when we talk about depression, suicide, manic episodes, those kind of things. It's really about what your brain is doing. So, folks who are depressed, that little synapses, hold on, am I in the. So, there's this thing that has like these arms, and then there's like dendrites, and it like goes. I'm trying to make this so simple, and it goes over, and then the synapses catches it, right? Like, say it's a piece of electricity that kind of goes over. Some folks have lots of room to catch a lot of happy juice, right? So a lot of serotonin, right? Some people don't have as much room. And so maybe one piece of serotonin goes in, and those people are more depressed, right? So you have to understand that a lot of this is physiological mixed with the environmental. And
You
that's
talking
why
about
we
language.
create.
You talking about language. Neurotransmitters, synapses, dendrites,
There we
axons.
go. Accents, look at that.
and
Most people don't know, that language. So,
and just my last question is gut health. Is gut health something? I mean, gut health is also something that's very new and important. That's that's still being researched and everything. So,
yeah.
are you a proponent for if you come to therapy, you also say eat a little bit healthier, prebiotics, probiotics, or how does that work in your practice?
Absolutely. So, health professionals know that it's about the whole being and the whole person.
Okay.
And so, a lot of times, I'm talking about exercise and how that's connected to mental health, what you eat and how that's connected to your mental health. So all of those components are connected to the treatment plan that I create for
Awesome.
my clients.
Okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. Good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, when you talk about gut health, sometime in the future, we're going to be like, how did we not think about the billions of bacteria effect on our body? There's a treatment that I can't say where, but it's easy to look up for kids with poor gut health and poor immune systems. They actually take the healthy products of digestion,
I mean, the poop.
blend it up, and insert it into those patients that have
Hmm.
poor gut health and
Poop
poor.
transplant, right? I've heard of that.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because a lot
So
of kids that have those type of issues had digestive issues as infants. A lot of
yeah,
the ones
but
that they're coming to see that have like ADHD, eczema, allergies, and all that stuff.
and you would think that if we take it at face value, you would say, oh, they're just transplanting poop from gut and all that stuff.
It's
But
the
let me
good
tell you a little
bacteria.
secret. Let me tell you a
Hmm.
little secret about the bacteria.
Hmm.
The high IQ kids
Mm-hmm.
poop is a whole different price range from a
Mm.
regular.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what I just said. The Harvard parents, high IQ kids,
Yeah.
products of digestion for transplant is a whole different price point than the other.
So this is for sale?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's you buy it. It's a medical product. It's a medical product. You buy certain grades of
You can get premium poop versus just your run of the mill poop.
yeah.
I'm starting to sell mine next week. So whoever wants Dr. P poop, get on it.
If you want
No,
true
really.
crime poop, true crime poop is going to be.
No, really, Jamid, your gut health is directly connected to your emotional health. So when people say trust your gut, that came from
Mm,
a place. It
mm.
came from feel that, understand that. So your gut health and that healthy bacteria is directly connected to your emotional well-being.
Yeah. I was reading about how like the brain's like the nervous system, the way
Mm-hmm.
it's connected literally to
To
your
your
gut.
gut. Yeah.
And that whole gut feeling thing,
Yeah.
it takes on a different meaning when you realize that, the things that you use to sense the world around you,
Yeah.
those same sensory connectors are in your gut, literally
Mm-hmm.
in your stomach, in your intestines,
Yeah.
that's connected to your brain. So it's when when any of you feel that whole, I got a feeling about this, follow it. Your body's literally
Like
picking
the
up
depth
something.
case.
Man, maybe I should go back to school. That would be, yeah, yeah. I think that's a big horizon. But man, you have given me a lot of stuff to think about, Dr. P, and I feel honored and blessed to finally meet you, um,
Oh, thank you.
and not your fake proxy who has been
Oh.
out here trying to tell
Fake.
us
It's
tell
fine.
us what to
I mean,
do
fake.
all over the place. Well, if any argument,
I have, I talk to my wife about everything. So when I'm talking about it, I've gotten a professional's input.
see, this is what he does to us. If there's any dispute, he says, "Well, since I'm married to a doctor."
Hey, who else can use that? If you got it, you flaunt it. Okay, that's all I'm saying. If you got
I
it,
mean,
you
I'm
flaunt
I'm
it.
married to Google.
Oh, uh-huh.
He knows everything.
Even the
Well,
stuff she
but
didn't really care
Right,
about,
and
he
he
knows.
rich.
the input part,
Okay.
the input part is important in Google, right? So, like, if you think you're just gonna say something in Google, you gotta input it right. But if you're married to a real doctor, they can hash that thing out on a 360 and help point you in the right direction. So now we're going to be calling you so that we can say, I'm friends with a doctor. So don't try to pull it on us, Jaime.
No, you have to go through me. You can't get a hold of my wife. I can't allow that. Anyone. You everyone out there in the verse, you can reach out to me. That's fine. I'm more reachable and attainable than my wife is. Okay.
He's more affordable.
Right? Yeah, right.
My Venmo is at jpineapples. Okay, so you'll find
I'll
me
boss
there.
you around for free.
Want to ask? Go ahead and ask that last question right there.
Okay,
Sandy, from
one more question because
CPJ.
we have to be mindful of Dr. Pineapple's time. Dr. Pina, do you feel like a required mental health course that lasted all through middle school and high school would change the way people see and then advocate for the positive therapy does provide, and for how people could better handle people in their immediate home who have special behavioral and mental health needs?
So, I don't know about a mental health course. Maybe this fits in, but some of the social emotional things, so like restorative practices. So when you harm somebody, I think it would be great if they taught kids how to repair harm that they've caused to another child. So that
Mm,
social emotional is supposed to be a part of our kids' curriculum in public school, but a lot of times I find that it's lacking, learning those skills. So I think it would be great if there was a specific social emotional course for our kids all the way up through high school. That would be amazing.
okay,
Awesome.
excellent. So, babe, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. It is
We do
so
appreciate
fun when you come on, and I get all starstruck when I see you on here with us. And
No.
so I'm just letting you
Aww.
know that,
Thank
you know.
Thank
So, and I mean, you're pretty easy on the eyes too. So just,
Thank
Aww.
you.
you know,
Thank
but
you.
So
I've
sweet.
heard that before. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Aww.
It's true. It's true. So, but what we want to do right now, actually, before we let you go, is we want to give you the screen to kind of give you an opportunity to share with the audience, the viewers, anything that you kind of want to, share. If it's a message of goodwill, if it's one of my favorite recipes that you know that you want to share, or whatever else is out there, we just want to give you the opportunity to say it.
All right. So, hello, the social undistancing show viewers. I think the only message that I would like to share tonight is to not be afraid of talking about your mental and your emotional health. And if you feel like you want to go to therapy and give it a try, it's never something that you have to do. Just give it a try, see how it goes. Take the leap and the risk in whatever modality. So whether that's texting or telehealth or in person, just go for it if you feel like it's something that would be helpful. You don't ever need a reason to go. The other thing I would say is just thinking about, again, the stigma of mental health. Think about think about living a non-judgmental life. So, for example, when I'm driving and somebody cuts me off, I think of all of the different possibilities of why that situation might have happened. Some of those thoughts make me happy, some of those things make me angry, some of those things make me sad, but there's a whole spectrum of possibilities, which leads to non judgment because I don't know. It ends with I don't know. So when you see somebody who irritates you, when you walk up to a person and they're talking to themselves or they're socially awkward, I want you to think, okay, what are the 10 possibilities that could be going on in this situation? You'll have 10 different feelings and you'll realize that you don't know the situation, and hopefully that'll leave you with non-judgment. So I just encourage you to try to walk in non-judgment.
I would cease to exist if I didn't. If I was not judgmental.
I think that's a
So at least
fine.
there's transparency there. At least you're honest. At least Sandy is honest.
I live for it.
I appreciate the message, Dr. Pineapples, and
Thank
I
you
do
very
think
much.
that is a good suggestion to give to everyone out here. So we're going to put you in the green room for now while we close out the show, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with you. Okay, everyone,
All
tell
right.
Thank
Dr.
you so much,
Pina
Dr.
thank you.
Pineapple. We
Have a
appreciate
good
you being
night.
on.
See you in a bit, babe.
Great to meet you in person.
That was good. I always enjoy
It was
my
so good. I'm so
wife
glad
to
she was
come
able
on.
to be on.
Yeah. Man.
She's done a great job on you, Jaime.
I think she
Yeah,
still
that's
has
so
her work
cute.
cut out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me being judgmental.
Yeah, Sandy. Way to take that advice real quick. Okay.
No, well, I can't take it because I said I would
How
cease to exist.
how can we do some exposure therapy on Jaime?
I don't need exposure therapy from y'all. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate y'all. No. Look, if you're looking for a therapist in your area that you want to explore and whatnot, go to the website psychologytoday.com. You can actually filter off therapists and Dr. Pineapple's talked about a variety of different professions out there that exist to help people out. And if you're curious about that, the first place to stop at is at psychologytoday.com. You'll put in your address or your city, state, and it'll pull up all the therapists or anyone who's able to help you out. And then you can actually, there's filters so you can find some that maybe match you better. So sometimes guys, you may want to speak with a lady and you can filter it off that way, or You guys, you might want to speak to another man, and so you can filter off that way. Maybe you want to speak to someone who looks like you, and you can filter them off that way. Certain degrees and whatnot. So there's just a lot of different filters that you can choose from. But please check it out, psychologytoday.com, and then you can look for a psychologist in here. You can also do it by insurance, I think, in case that's something that
I should have asked Dr. Pina what therapist she would suggest if there's someone that I strongly dislike that I can't even look at. Is that a behavioral therapist?
We will ask her in the after show.
Well, I don't want to take too much of her time.
I understand. But she's listening to us, so maybe she heard it and she can start thinking about it. But either way, listen up.
CPJ wants to know how I feel about being the brain of the show. It feels amazing. It's almost like I won the lottery, actually. The doc said it. We all heard it.
Look at Jaime.
I'm not arguing
I think
that.
she basically said I was Harvard poop. That's exactly what my brain
Oh gosh, I'm not going there. You're not Harvard poop. I don't know what to say, actually. But here's what I know what to say is, everyone, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. That's why we asked Dr. Pina to come on tonight and talk. If you have any other questions, feel free to share wherever you feel like it. But remember, psychologytoday.com will help you find a professional in your area. Unfortunately, Dr. Pineapples cannot practice all over the country. She can only practice here in Illinois. And
Illinois.
And Joe's not here. Thanks, Jameed, for filling in tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jameed. Appreciate it.
No problem.
And so I know we'll probably be seeing Jameed again because Joe is unavailable for the next couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, actually. But we'll
Joe's just playing.
He is, isn't he? He's playing with his new toy. He's segwaying all over down the street, man.
Yeah, he's not walking. That's what he's doing.
But come and hang out with us Wednesday night because I got we're gonna have a guest host come in again. You remember? Actually, I'll save it for Wednesday night. But our guest for Wednesday is a Barry Sade, and he is actually one of my comic dealers, and so he's going to come on and talk about just what got him into the business of doing comics online, selling comics online, and what he does, how he made it a family thing and whatnot. So please come and join. You'll know I'll be here for that. And anything else, Sandy or Professor?
Oh.
I'll be in the comments challenging, man. Comics are my thing. I will be challenging the power. Who has the best cosmic power? Who will win between Terrax and Biolore? Boy, we're gonna.
Nice.
We might need to surprise everyone who's going to be here on Wednesday. And I meant to say ho, not Joe. Perdóname. I'm so sorry about that. Ho, beca. All right, everyone. So
Good
let
night.
me find the extra.
Thank y'all for being on here. A couple of comments.
I'm going to go with an old school one again.
Not
like
so, Jaime.
What?
No. I'm just reading some of these comments that
Okay,
Anita said, my doctor told me our brain is a powerful organ.
Here we go. All right. Love you guys. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Actually, I forgot.
Good night, everyone.
It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know?